The courthouse smelled like old paper and bad coffee. Ethan sat in the back row, holding the summons like proof of a bad dream. The clerk called his name, and his pulse jumped. Across the room, a woman stood up. Jessica Lane. Mid-30s, neat hair, fake calm in her eyes. She looked at him like they shared a secret. He had never seen her before. The judge asked her to speak first. Jessica started talking about a bar in Brooklyn 3 years ago. She said Ethan told her he wasn't ready for love. She said he vanished when she got pregnant. Every word felt like a script from a cheap courtroom movie. Ethan's lawyer, Amira Patel, sat beside him, silent but sharp. Jessica wiped an invisible tear, glancing at the gallery for sympathy. Ethan's stomach twisted. He didn't drink. He didn't even live in Brooklyn back then. When the judge turned to him, he stood slowly. "Your Honor, I don't know this woman. I've never met her in my life." He spoke clearly, voice steady but cold. 3 years ago, I donated sperm anonymously through a licensed clinic. If I'm the biological father, it could only be through that process. Jessica's eyes widened, her lips trembling like she'd been caught mid-performance. She shook her head, pretending to be heartbroken. "You told me you needed space, Ethan. You said you weren't ready." He blinked. "I never said that. I've never even spoken to you." The judge looked between them, then sighed. "We'll order a DNA test," she said. Amira nodded quietly. "Good," she whispered. "This nonsense ends here." Jessica smiled faintly, that chilling kind of smile that tries to rewrite reality. She whispered as she passed him, "You'll remember soon." Ethan didn't flinch, but something cold crawled up his spine. He left the courtroom in silence, papers still in his hand. Outside, Amira caught up with him. "You did well in there," she said. "Just stay calm. Let the test speak." Ethan nodded, but his thoughts raced. What if she somehow found out about the donation? The clinic had promised total anonymity. He had read every clause, signed every line. He spent that night scanning the documents again. Anonymous meant anonymous. He highlighted the words like they could protect him. His family group chat blew up with jokes and questions. He ignored most of them. When his mom finally called, he said, "It's a mistake, Mom." She didn't sound convinced. Ethan turned off his phone and stared at the court folder. It felt like the start of something he couldn't undo. The next morning, he looked in the mirror and didn't recognize his own reflection. Somewhere, a stranger had written him into her story. And now, the law wanted him to play the part. The DNA results came back on a rainy Thursday. Ethan stared at the numbers like they were written in another language. 99.99%. It was supposed to clear his name, not bury him. He sat alone at the kitchen table, phone buzzing with messages he didn't want to read. His mother called first. "Ethan, we need to talk." Her voice cracked with disappointment, not concern. He tried to explain, but every sentence sounded like an excuse. "Mom, it's not what you think. I was a donor. It was anonymous." She sighed like he was speaking another dialect of guilt. "Your name is on that paper," she said. His father didn't speak, just exhaled like silence was judgment. Even his sister, Claire, sent a text that felt like a punch. "Maybe just own it," she wrote. "It's a child, not a scandal." He dropped the phone face down on the counter. No one believed him. Not one person. That night he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, Jessica's fake sadness replayed in his head. Her trembling voice. Her tear that never quite fell. He remembered her last words in court. "You'll remember soon." Remember what? He never met her. He kept telling himself that, like a prayer that stopped working. The next day, Jessica showed up at the courthouse lobby. She smiled when she saw him, too familiar for a stranger. "I told you, Ethan. You're the father." He stared at her, speechless. "You used something that wasn't yours, he said quietly. She blinked, then laughed like he'd told a joke. You're just scared. We're a family now. He stepped back, heart pounding. I'm not your family. You need help. Her expression froze for a second, then softened again. You'll see. You'll come around. She turned and walked away, as if they'd just confirmed wedding plans. Ethan called Amira the second she disappeared from sight. Her tone was calm, professional, but the words hit hard. Being a biological father doesn't make you a legal one. If conception was through a licensed clinic, you're protected. We'll fight this, she said. Just don't panic. Too late for that. His group chat exploded again. Memes, sarcasm, moral lectures. His family stopped asking questions and started giving advice. Be a man. Do the right thing. He didn't reply. He started keeping notes instead. Dates, times, messages. Everything went into a folder labeled court. He checked the clinic website late that night, searching for answers. Every policy still said the same words. Donor anonymity is guaranteed. He whispered them out loud, like a curse and a promise. But deep down, he already knew. Someone had found a way to break the system. And that someone was now calling herself the mother of his child. Ethan shut the laptop and stared into the dark. For the first time, he wasn't just scared of losing a case. He was scared of being trapped in someone else's fantasy. The message came on a quiet Sunday evening. Unknown number. It's Rachel. I used to be Jessica's friend. Please call me. Ethan stared at the screen for a full minute. He didn't trust coincidences anymore. Still, curiosity beat fear. He called. A tired voice answered after one ring. I need to clear my conscience, Rachel said. She sounded nervous, like every word could explode. She lied to you, Ethan. She lied to everyone. Ethan didn't speak. He just listened. She never met you. There was no one-night stand. Rachel's breath caught on the line. She bought donor vials from a clinic in Manhattan. Your donor number. Ethan froze. That number was supposed to be buried behind locked files. How did she even find me? He asked quietly. Through DNA sites, Rachel said. She used 23andMe, then Ancestry. She matched a cousin of yours. Found your name on Facebook, tracked you through LinkedIn. Ethan's stomach sank. He remembered that stupid holiday sale. The DNA test he took, just for fun. He'd given a stranger a genetic roadmap straight to his front door. Rachel continued. She's been obsessed since she saw your donor profile. She told me she wanted your baby specifically. She said men never take responsibility unless you force them. Ethan gripped the phone tighter. His pulse roared in his ears. She rehearsed her story before court, practiced crying in the mirror. Rachel's voice cracked. I should have said something earlier. I'm sorry. He exhaled slowly, trying to stay composed. Can you prove any of this? Yes, she said. I still have screenshots, texts, photos of her notes. Within an hour, a Dropbox link hit his inbox. Ethan opened it like diffusing a bomb. Screenshots of Jessica bragging in group chats. Photos of clinic receipts with his donor ID circled. A document titled Court Statement, Practice Draft. Every lie carefully rehearsed. He scrolled until his eyes burned. Then he built a list. Call Amira. Back up everything twice. Stop talking to family. Ignored Jessica completely. He followed it to the letter. He printed every file, labeled each page with dates. Sticky notes covered his dining table. The timeline grew like a map of madness. Clinic purchase dates. DNA search timestamps. Rachel's messages. All connected by red lines of obsession. He whispered to himself, got you. Then he called Amira. I have proof, he said. Amira didn't hesitate. Send me everything tonight. Ethan exported the files one by one. Each PDF felt like a weapon forged from truth. When the upload finished, he finally breathed. For the first time in weeks, the fear in his chest turned into focus. He wasn't running anymore. He was preparing for war. Amira called early the next morning. Her voice was calm but sharp, like a scalpel ready for work. "We're filing," she said. Ethan sat at his desk, surrounded by stacks of printed evidence. Screenshots, receipts, and signed affidavits covered every inch of space. He felt less like a victim, and more like a detective who hadn't slept in days. Amira outlined the plan with military precision. "We'll subpoena the clinic for custody records of donor vials linked to Jessica. We'll request communication logs with DNA companies. We'll attach Rachel's affidavit and move to dismiss her claim with sanctions." Ethan nodded, even though she couldn't see him. Every sentence felt like armor being built piece by piece. They met later that day in her office, fluorescent light reflecting off cold paperwork. Amira flipped through the evidence like reading a crime novel. "She left a trail a mile wide," she said. "She used a licensed clinic. That alone destroys her story about a one-night stand." Ethan watched her mark key sections with colored tabs. "I don't want revenge," he said softly. "I just want my life back." Amira glanced up. "Revenge is loud, justice is quiet," she said. "Let's go quiet." 2 days later, the court filings went through. A subpoena to the clinic. A motion to dismiss, with sanctions for fraud and perjury. A civil complaint for abuse of process and emotional distress. When the clinic replied, the truth came in black and white. Their records confirmed the donor ID used by Jessica matched Ethan's DNA test. They included a signed contract, his donor agreement from 3 years ago. It clearly stated that all donors waive parental rights and legal responsibility. Recipients waive any claim to the donor's identity. Under state law, donors are not parents. No room for misunderstanding. No room for lies. Amira smiled for the first time since this started. "This ends it," she said. At the next hearing, Jessica showed up wearing white, as if pretending innocence. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a desperate mother seeking fairness. But Amira laid out the chain of facts like a weapon. "The petitioner fabricated sexual contact," she said. "The child was conceived through assisted reproduction, using donor material." She handed the clinic's declaration to the judge. She handed Rachel's affidavit next. Jessica's lawyer tried to interrupt, but the judge raised a hand. Silence filled the room. Jessica tried to cry again. Her tears looked rehearsed, dry around the edges. "I only wanted my son to know his father," she said. Ethan met her gaze. "He deserves the truth, not a lie." The judge leaned forward. "Perjury is not a parenting plan," she said firmly. The gavel struck once. Petition dismissed, with prejudice. The words hit like thunder in Ethan's chest. Case closed. Jessica stood frozen. Amira handed Ethan the order. "Frame it," she said. He didn't. But he folded it neatly and placed it in his folder marked proof. For the first time, he felt the weight lift from his shoulders. The storm had broken, but the sky wasn't clear yet. Weeks passed before the silence cracked again. Ethan thought the nightmare was finally over. Then came the knock on his door one Friday night. Heavy, angry, impatient. He opened it a few inches and froze. Jessica stood there, eyes glassy, a wine bottle in one hand. "You think you won," she slurred. Her lipstick was smudged, her smile unsteady. "You can't just walk away from your family." Ethan's jaw clenched. "There is no family, Jessica. You need to leave." She laughed, a broken sound that filled the hallway. "You owe me more than money. You ruined my life." Behind Ethan, his friends Chris and Devin stood silently. Chris crossed his arms. "Lady, you should go before this gets worse." Jessica's eyes darted toward him, sharp and wild. "You think this is funny," she shouted. Devin already had his phone out. I think the cops will, he said calmly. Jessica sneered. They won't do anything. I didn't do anything illegal. Ethan stepped back, voice steady but cold. You're violating a restraining order right now. The color drained from her face. For a second, she looked small, fragile, almost human. Then the blue and red lights flashed outside. Officers arrived, calm but firm. They spoke to her quietly. She tried to spin it into a tragic love story. They weren't buying it. 5 minutes later, she was escorted off the property. No cuffs, just a warning. Don't come back. Ethan stood in the doorway as the car pulled away. Chris grabbed another slice of pizza and sighed. That was like a deleted scene from a crime documentary. Devin raised his drink. To boundaries, legal fees, and exes with issues. They all laughed, but Ethan couldn't shake the chill. After they left, he checked the locks twice, then again. He turned on his porch camera notifications. Sleep came late and shallow. The next morning, he sent Amira a short text. Incident reported, police file logged. She replied with one word, documented. It felt satisfying. Paperwork had become his shield. Days later, his parents called. We read the court order, his mom said softly. We're sorry, we should have trusted you. His father's voice followed, quieter but heavier. You handled this better than I would have. Ethan thanked them, but kept his tone distant. Forgiveness wasn't automatic. Then came Claire, his sister, with a lecture disguised as empathy. She's clearly not well, Claire said. Maybe you could have been kinder. Ethan let out a hollow laugh. Kindness doesn't fix delusion, he said. He hung up before she could reply. He didn't want more guilt. He wanted peace. That night, he sat on the couch, TV on mute, mind blank. For the first time in months, his life was quiet. No court dates. No false accusations. No messages from ghosts. He thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. But peace, he learned, doesn't last long when someone like Jessica still breathes your name. The calm lasted less than a month. One morning, Rachel called again. Her voice trembled with something between guilt and fear. She's not taking care of the baby, she said. Ethan froze mid-sip of his coffee. Rachel continued before he could speak. She leaves him alone in the hallway. She gives him melatonin so he'll sleep. She straps him wrong in the car seat. Each word felt heavier than the last. She posts pictures like everything's fine, Rachel whispered. But it's not fine. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't hate Jessica anymore. But the thought of an innocent child in danger made his stomach twist. He opened a new folder on his laptop. Labeled it CPS. He asked Rachel to send proof. Screenshots arrived minutes later. Photos, timestamps, captions. A stroller parked outside an apartment at midnight. A baby bottle beside a melatonin jar. Ethan didn't hesitate. He called the Child Protection Services hotline. His voice was calm, almost too calm. He gave dates, addresses, evidence, no emotion. When they asked why he was reporting, he said, because someone needs to. The intake officer thanked him for the information. He hung up and sat in silence. Later that week, CPS confirmed a home visit. They found issues, but didn't remove the child. Instead, they issued a safety plan, mandatory parenting classes, random checks. It wasn't dramatic justice, just quiet accountability. Ethan documented every step. He sent a certified letter to the building manager, requesting security footage. Cameras don't lie, he thought. For a few days, things went quiet again. Then Jessica filed a new complaint. She claimed Ethan was harassing her online. That he was creating a hostile environment. He almost laughed at the irony. He sent everything to Amira within the hour. She replied 2 words. Let's file. They moved fast. a motion for sanctions for frivolous conduct, a contempt filing for violating the protection order, a civil action for defamation and abuse of process. They subpoenaed her phone logs and social media accounts. When the court reviewed the evidence, it was over fast. The timestamps didn't match her story. Security cameras placed her miles away from her claims. Her complaint collapsed in minutes. Sanctions granted. Legal fees awarded to Ethan. The court issued another notice: bank levy and wage garnishment. He didn't celebrate. He just nodded when Amira texted, "Executed." Jessica vanished from his life after that, at least publicly. The clinic flagged her across their network. She was permanently banned from all donor programs. When she, accidentally, showed up near his building again, the order of protection extended to 5 years. Ethan didn't feel anger anymore. Only closure. He organized his folders, labeled each one by date. He warned his relatives to lock their DNA accounts. He deleted old apps that tracked location. He sat in the quiet, finally breathing evenly. People called it revenge. He called it order. He didn't chase justice. He built it, document by document, truth by truth. And when it was done, he closed the last folder. Accountability, he thought. With teeth. The storm finally ended in silence. Ethan sat by the window, rain tapping against the glass like punctuation. His laptop screen glowed softly, the last document saved. Folder name, receipts. Inside it, every lie, every truth, every signature that set him free. He leaned back and breathed, slow and deep. No courtroom. No lawyers. No ghosts at his door. Just quiet. His phone buzzed with another apology from his sister. He didn't reply. Some forgiveness lives in silence, not in words. Outside, the city moved on like nothing happened. He'd learned how fragile anonymity really was. How one test, one click could rewrite a life. He deleted his DNA profile that night. He locked every account and burned the paper copies. The air felt lighter. He wasn't a victim anymore. He wasn't a villain either. He was just a man who learned the hard way that truth needs proof. He whispered to himself before turning off the light. I didn't take revenge. I just made things right. And for the first time in years, he slept without dreaming of her name.